Hey peeps, it's Dark Confessions time, and today we are talking about The Oracle of the Hekatean Path by Ken Payne and Chris Butler. So I have done an unboxing of this deck on the channel. I will put the link to that unboxing in the description box down below. But I want to talk about what kind of caused me to pull this one out for the next video in this series. So as you guys know, I was putting together the sew-in deck list recently, and I happened to catch out of the corner of my eye this deck within my collection because I had unboxed it and then ended up having to move a great deal sooner than I had intended to. And so this deck ended up getting put away and not really worked with over the summer months. And then I had put it in, put it on one of my shelves. And again, until I saw it the other day, really it just kind of had gone over my head that it was even a part of my collection for the most part. I have not felt called to pull it out for client readings really. And I haven't been working with it personally. But so I see it the other day and I just made like a little mental note to myself, like, okay, I think that, I should check that one out again and just see, like, am I really called to work with the deck? I'm going to show you some imagery from the deck right now. And then I was processing and moving through something in my own personal experience a few days ago. Actually, I think it was sew-in evening, and I was doing some journaling around kind of a pattern that's been repeating for me that I'm wanting to get some clarity on shifting. And some of you know, if you're part of the Patreon peeps tribe with me, you will know from the bonus videos that you guys get that I've really been trying to put together this workshop for Persephone and struggling to allow her gentleness to support me. Well, so I'm doing this journaling work. I pull out this deck and I'm like, I don't know. I enjoyed the unboxing of it, but again, I haven't felt very called to work with the deck. So I just pulled from this deck in order to understand a shadow aspect that I wasn't seeing clearly. And what do I get? Core Persephone comes forward. And the card Medea with magic. And I had to laugh because here was Persephone again. Here is this exact theme that I've been trying to avoid and not deal with, and this deck was really great at just calling me out of my shit, much like Mausolea Oracle of Souls, or is it Black Mirror or Dark Mirror Oracle? I always forget the name of that one, but that one, or the Angelarium decks. They always are very, very brutally honest, and oftentimes when I don't want to hear it, but it's always very, like, I have very, very powerful awarenesses and understandings and growth with those decks, even though they're not the one that I want to sleep with underneath my pillow necessarily every night. They are really powerful decks with very specific purposes in my practice and in my work as a reader and a priestess. So I was like, holy shit, okay, that I've been underestimating this deck. So my dark confession around the Oracle of the Hekatean Path is that I actually think it's a very powerful deck from a magical shadow work and healing perspective. And of course it makes sense that being associated with Hecate, it would hold those keys, if you will. But it's a really powerful deck. So I've been working with it since sew-in and drawing cards that evening. And I have to say that I really like how powerful this deck is now. I want to be really honest that the artwork is not my favorite. It is a Scarabeo deck. I'm sighing because I really do love you guys, but like I mispronounce things sometimes, and it's really not the end of the world. Someone recently reached out to me about how I've been pronouncing Scarabeo. You guys know what I'm talking. You know who I am talking about. It's this mass deck producer, okay? There were a lot of decks in this similar artwork style that were popular a few years ago, and I felt like a lot of them got churned out, kind of capitalizing on the popularity, and I don't really necessarily love all of those decks. Like, there's one by Stacey DeMarco from this time that I really tried to get into, but I ended up donating that deck because I just couldn't, it felt like it was churned out very quickly without a great deal of thought that I was able to connect with. Like, I couldn't find my way in to connect with that one. And I do have to say the artwork in this deck definitely kind of put me off around that. And the other thing was, I have a very personal, intimate relationship with Hecate. It's really, really powerful. And I've been working with her since I started my path with witchcraft. So I also have a very specific way that I experience her, that I have been cautious to work with this deck around, because it's like, if the artist and the author are experiencing her differently, then I'm not going to want to use this deck in alignment with Hecate, which would be why I would be working with the deck for the most part, right? Because it's a deck about Hecate and that pantheon of which she is a part. So that in the artwork, I was like cautiously optimistic when I unboxed it, but it just really had led me to avoid this deck for some time. And I'm very happy to say that I'm going to be keeping this one in my collection. It's not, you know, independently produced. It doesn't feel really unique or special in how it looks or the cardstock, but it's very, very, very honest and upfront. And I will say that the guidebook is really great. Typically, with this publishing house, I don't really always love their guidebooks, but because they're in multiple languages, so you're getting a lot less information than you think you are when you look at the size of the guidebook. But much like the Lippy Oracle and the Chicoli Oracle and the Chicoli Tarot, the guidebook is actually really insightful and takes you out of what you would think the card meaning would be. So I do recommend working with the guidebook with this deck, especially if you're approaching this from a shadow work perspective. Like, when I was asking for clarity, it was around like, what am I not seeing clearly that goes into this pattern I keep repeating in my personal experience? And these two cards were crystal clear, as well as also just affirming for me that Persephone is a face of the sacred feminine that I personally have to be walking with at this time, and that we still have some unfinished business. So to me, this is a really powerful deck that I have a new level of appreciation for. So even though the artwork isn't my cup of tea and it's not by my favorite publishing house, I do really think that there's a very important place in my collection for this deck. And I think it's a very powerful deck from a magical shadow work and left-hand path perspective. So if you have been considering purchasing this one, or you're just wondering what were my thoughts after a period of time, I can say that I am really glad I have this in my collection, even though I did have a lot of resistance at first. Even just in purchasing it because it was popular from a shadow work perspective, and then I was like, oh man, come on. You know, sometimes those decks end up disappointing me where I can't quite find my way in. But this I have found my way into, and I'm really, really enjoying it. So if you have the deck and you haven't really found how to work with it yet, I would definitely encourage you to work with it when you need honesty, when you are in a space for self-reflection, when you are in a time and a chapter of your life where you can do that journaling on the draws that you get from this deck, and then when you're looking for clarity, insight, and wisdom into your own personal shadow work. Or if you're a reader like me for a client journey, then I think this one is really effective. So my dark confession is I actually like Oracle of the Hekatean Path. I have found her place within my collection, and I'm very excited to get to know her better, especially over the winter months, which are so perfect for that type of internal work anyhow. So I hope you're doing well out there in the world. I am sending you, as always, oceans of love. I will, of course, see you in the next video. Take care.